Have you ever lost someone and thought, why did this have to happen? Or watched a dream fall apart and wondered if God was even listening? Sometimes life feels like a constant taking away. People leave. Doors slam shut. Opportunities fade. And it hurts. But what if the very things that felt like rejection were actually God's mercy? What if His no was protecting you from something you couldn't see, or preparing you for something greater than you imagined? Today we're going deep into the heartbreak, the silence, the closed doors, to find the hidden love of God in every rejection. Let's be real, rejection stings. Whether it's a person walking out of your life, a job you didn't get, or a dream that didn't come true, rejection cuts deep. We take it personally. We feel abandoned. We question our worth. But even Jesus knew rejection. In John 1 verse 11 it says, He came to His own, and His own did not receive Him. If the Son of God was rejected, then rejection isn't a sign that you're broken. It might be a sign you're aligned with something divine. And in Luke 22, Peter denies Jesus 3 times. Jesus knew it would happen. He wasn't surprised. But instead of pushing Peter away forever, He later restores him. Rejection wasn't the end of Peter's story, it was a turning point. Let's talk relationships. Sometimes people leave your life and it feels like betrayal, abandonment, or loss. But sometimes it's God's protection. In Genesis 13, Abraham and Lot's herdsmen were arguing. The land couldn't support both of them. Abraham tells Lot, let's separate. If you go left, I'll go right. Lot chooses the best-looking land, but it would later be destroyed with Sodom. Meanwhile, after Lot leaves, God speaks to Abraham again and expands His promise. Sometimes the blessing is delayed until the separation happens. Another example, Saul and David. David was loyal to Saul. He served him, comforted him with music, even saved his kingdom. But Saul turned on him, tried to kill him, chased him into exile. Why? Because David was called to be king. And staying in Saul's palace would have kept him under Saul's shadow. God removed David from Saul, not to punish him but to prepare him. 1 Corinthians 15 verse 33 says, Bad company corrupts good character. Sometimes God removes people you wanted in your life to make room for who you need in your life. It's not just people. Sometimes God allows our achievements to collapse, our plans to fall apart, our dreams to die, and it makes us question everything. But here's the truth, not every good thing is a God thing. In Genesis 11, the people came together to build the Tower of Babel, a monument to their own greatness. It looked successful, unified, powerful. But God confused their language and scattered them. Why? Because the tower wasn't built for His glory, it was built to replace Him. Sometimes God tears down what we build so we don't end up worshiping it. Look at Jonah. He had his own plans, his own idea of justice. He didn't want to preach to Nineveh, so he ran. God interrupted his mission not to shame him, but to align him with His true calling. Sometimes the dream you lose is saving you from becoming someone you were never meant to be. And then there's Paul. In 2 Corinthians 12, Paul says he had a thorn in his flesh, something painful and frustrating. He begged God to take it away. But God said, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. God didn't give Paul the answer he wanted. But He gave him something better, strength, purpose, and grace. Rejection isn't always denial. Sometimes it's divine redirection. When God shuts a door, it's not always punishment. Sometimes it's positioning. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 says, Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. We don't always understand why the door closed. But faith isn't about understanding, it's about trusting. Isaiah 55 verses 8 to 9 reminds us, My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. God sees the motives we can't see. He sees the conversations behind closed doors, the manipulation, the compromise, the danger. What looks like a missed opportunity may actually be a miracle in disguise. Even Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, Father, if it is possible, take this cup from me. But then He said, Not my will but yours be done. That prayer changed everything. Jesus walked into the ultimate rejection so that we could walk in eternal acceptance. Here's the good news, God never removes without a reason. If someone left, trust that God saw something you didn't. If the door closed, trust that something better is coming. If the dream died, trust that a new one is being born. Romans 8 verse 28 says, We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Your life isn't falling apart, it might be falling into place. Jeremiah 29 verse 11, For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. You don't need everyone to understand you. You just need to trust that God is still writing your story, even in the chapters of loss. When God delays you on purpose, sometimes the delay isn't punishment. It's protection. In Exodus 13 verse 17, when God led the Israelites out of Egypt, He didn't take them the fastest way. It says, God did not lead them on the road through the Philistine country, though that was shorter. For God said, if they face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. He led them the long way because they weren't ready yet. Not every shortcut is safe. Not every delay is denial. God knew what was ahead. He slowed them down to save them. If your life is taking longer than expected, maybe God sees something you don't. Maybe the delay is actually deliverance. So if God has been removing people, if you've been losing things that once meant the world to you, if it feels like your prayers are being ignored, maybe you're not being rejected. Maybe you're being protected. You don't see the full picture yet, but one day you will. And when that day comes, you'll look back and thank God for every person who walked away, every door that closed, and every dream that didn't come true. Because what He had in store was greater. You just had to make space for it. This is Tainted Souls. If this spoke to you, subscribe, comment below, and share this with someone who's feeling lost. God's not done with your story. He's just removing the pieces that don't belong. See you in the next one.